hold on, my man. Let me.
My bad, Mark.
Because CEOs understands marketing terms. You're conflating
Robert,
the adoption.
like you said.
Okay, sorry about that.
You're conflating the adoption of EV in the South, right? With adoption of autonomous driving, and what Anthony said is exactly correct. Because of social media, because of consumerism, people are going to adapt to things quicker, and adapt to them quicker. And level 4 driving doesn't mean there's no steering wheel in your car. That's level 5. It just means you can push a button, and it can drive you autonomously. And what will happen? What I predict this, but this is just a prediction. I don't know for sure. But what is likely to happen is you're going to have like Mothers Against Drunk Driving and some insurance companies, especially for drinking purposes, that will want to have a level 4 driving system in every car in case you are impaired that can drive you home. It will save lives. It will dramatically, reduce insurance rates, which insurance companies help drive these things, right? You may get a discount on your insurance if you have a level 4 capability in your car and you are a drinker, okay? And so all those things combined, I lean heavily toward and not just me, I've talked to marketing experts on this, by the 2030s, depending on when the major OEMs, okay, Hyundai, Ford, General Motors, Toyota, depending on when they're able to get their mass market cars like Camry, 4Runner, Explorer, Silverado, depending on when they can get, which I think will be around 2027, 2028, when they can get level 4 driving into their cars, you will start with a 10 to 15% adoption. But by the 2030s, by the mid 2030s, I would say, and it's pretty close one, we'll see 30 to 40% of cars having level 4 driving in them being sold.
Yeah, can I jump in? Here's I just want to provide the data real quick on this. So the AAA did for like just in 10 seconds, and you can go rubber. So February 2025 is AAA's last survey on autonomous driving. Only 13% of U.S. drivers said they trusted. Compare that to the United Kingdom, it's 22%. So you can see we are culturally behind on this topic.
CEO, I fully expect this to I'm surprised it's 13%. I'm surprised it's that generous. CEO, I want you to look up Full Self-Driving 13. That shit came out in like October. This shit is brand spanking. It's not a year old, bro.
Yeah, but
So Elon has been promising full self-driving for over a decade. This now.
So the thing with the full self-driving, right? It's not what you think it is. Like now, you don't have to touch the wheel like you used to, right? The reason why with that camera thing, your eyes still have to be alert, and you are supposed to legally, you are supposed to keep your hand on the wheel. If they find out your hands ain't on the wheel, it's illegal. But you really don't have to. Before people would sneak and put these little weights on it so they can play it off like their hands on the wheel. But that shit is not as great as Anthony's trying to play it out to me.
Yeah, can I jump in real quick? So I get it, bro. I get it. Like, and I'm just talking from an analysis standpoint in terms of my portfolio goes and researching these things. Absolutely, unequivocally, insurers would prefer that humans don't drive cars, and a main reason is because they can extract more accurate data about human behavior under these conditions, and so data is king of everything. So it makes sense that insurers want that, right? And for those that don't have electric vehicles or autonomous vehicles, they want you to put that device in your car where they can track your driving behavior, right? And they adjust your insurance based on your driving behavior. In a perfect world, insurance companies can justify their rates, etc., etc., etc. And from a safety standpoint, we have reduced accidents, reduced damage to property, etc., etc. Like, I get it, but the question still remains: who is going to dominate that market? Because Tesla started out, and Elon Musk, pushed this, and he's at the forefront of it. Does not mean that he is going to remain in a monopoly position. That company is not going to be the leader of the transition into more people driving autonomously. I just wanted to make that comment. I like it.
So it's a good question, Robert. I tell you that it's up in the air. Mobileye is the company that I think there's like 8 or 9. Yeah, the Mobileye is the company. I can tell you that Volkswagen and BMW and I think Toyota has gone with Mobileye. I know Ford is looking at it as well. How it's so, I wouldn't say that Tesla is completely dominating, like Anthony said. It's a brand new space. I wouldn't say Tesla's completely dominating. It's still being figured out. Tesla's the first in the market, the most known for their autonomous driving because of their market. But once the other cars, the other makers, I think I know that Mercedes has a level 4 capability, and I'll just clarify one thing. Once you get to a level 4, you do not have to have your eyes on the road or your hands on the wheel. There are state laws that require that, but level 4 driving, you don't have to actually shouldn't have your hands on the wheel if it's a level 4 driving capability. So what's happening right now, and I'll land my plane. What's happening right now with Waymo and with Tesla in cities like Austin, Phoenix, Los Angeles, San Francisco, all that data is Atlanta and DC. All that data is being compiled into a database, and it will be conjoined and it'll be sold to other AI companies, and then it'll make it cheaper and more available for it to get into other makes and models.
And I want to make a comment.
So Robert. 1 second, Robert. You just went. So I want you guys to understand, like, as it relates to the full self-driving, the company that has the most data to feed to the artificial intelligence is the company that's going to dominate the space. It's a very simple, straightforward equation. You are not going to program your way to full self-driving. That's what Elon tried to do for a decade, and it didn't work. It doesn't work to program your way. It has to be AI. You have to train it. And the more footage you have, the better your AI system is going to be. So, yes, there's this thing, first mover advantage. Yeah, Tesla, is one of the first movers, if not the first move. But the super source that Tesla has is they've got the most data to train the algorithm. That's why they're going to win.
Make a comment about driving across the country. I drive more across the country than I do locally. Like, I don't really enjoy driving in the city, to be quite honest, which is just not my thing. But across country, man, to those who have traveled from like New York to California and back, amazing experience. It's dangerous. This shit is dangerous, right? Like it's very, very dangerous. Portions during the trips that I make, I wish I would utilize, but I got a whole thing about autonomous driving. That's another story. But in my mind, it would be a more relaxing drive, and this is so I think those people who drive long distances probably will feel the same way that I do when you're driving back and forth across this country, going to different states, moving around unfamiliar territories, and it does feel better when you can just physically rest, because it can be, it takes a lot out of you. So that market might be explored. Maybe those vehicles might be geared towards long distance drivers, for example.
It won't be if you got a camera system, not with the camera system. Maybe with LiDAR in the future, but not when you have a camera system.
And the part that's missing from that is most people don't feel comfortable with the amount of charging stations yet either. When you start getting out of the major states.
Good point. Good point. Good point.
Ryan, this is not a gas car versus electric car problem. You can have full self-driving in gas cars.
Anthony, slow down, Anthony. Let me finish. You jumped into it. The other thing is, it still adds to the time frame of a trip. So I know that for me, taking my family to Vegas, not only did it take longer, but I spent more money because now instead of like grabbing something quick on the way, it's like, well, we're gonna sit here for 45 minutes, even though it's a supercharging station. Let's walk over there and grab something to eat. So people do end up spending more in that situation too.
So,
Brian, this has nothing to do with the conversation, though.
yeah, it doesn't. But what's also going to change by 2028? We're going to have solid state batteries, and solid state batteries are going to completely change. The charging times are going to go down to 10 to 15 minutes, and the range on those vehicles is going to be between 600 to 800 miles. And so, and they're a lot lighter. So Patty's tire problem is going to go away.
But
So, go ahead, Mama.
no, I'm just saying, to me, it's saying that's gonna drive the change EV way more than autonomous driving.
Well,
It's not.
the autonomous driving is not dependent on EV.
Yeah.
This is why I have a problem with the whole coming up and saying this. We can have gas powered cars that have full self-driving, and Trent is 100%. Right now, they're testing the solid state batteries. There's a bunch of manufacturers: Samsung, BYD, Cato, all of them that currently have it on the road testing. There's supposed to be a car dropping later this year with a solid state battery. It's just that's right around the corner. But if we're talking about gas powered vehicles and full self driving, you can have that today. It's the Mercedes EQS, and it does have a solid state battery. Hey, I got a question for the room before I go. I think we're talking about cars. I think my boy Tony T down there. Great car guy. I do have a question for all of you. What price can it be? Let me ask it a different way. What car payment would you be comfortable paying for a monthly basis for a car that had full self-driving? You could just go around the room. I just love to hear if you guys would pay for that type of car.
Yeah, that's a good question. And before I answer it, the incorporating of that technology to gas-powered vehicles, once these companies figure that out, that's going to be a game changer. Anyway, we maybe should think about the sound that people make. I think this is really about no more than $50 on average, $50 or less.
Robert, the point I believe that Trent is trying to make is, honestly, we're going to come to a point where a lot of people are going to opt out of owning cars, period. And this is what I believe Elon Musk's end goal is. Elon doesn't really care about the selling cars anymore. Elon Musk cares about robotaxi. Elon Musk cares about building robots. Selling cars does not excite that man anymore.
So you just went away and had your own conversation. Trent asked the stage a question.
No problem. I'll okay.
But you can go.
What I'm saying is that
Go with your
it becomes a
runaway
subscription
answer.
model.
So Trent, go ahead and repeat your question. Just hold on to what you got, Anthony. Write it down.
Yeah, I'll ask it. Robert, you kind of answered it. What would you pay for additional to your car payment a month for to give your car a fully self-driving capability? Just real quick. Robert said $50. I think that's a good number. Is anybody say 25?
I currently pay $99 a month.
You're paying 99. Katrina or Sen or CEO?
It's the subscription, but I don't want it.
Yeah, I don't want.
Same. Autonomous driving is just not a selling point for me at this point.
it's not integrated into my life enough for me to give a fuck. So paying another bill on a car that I already own is stupid to me.
I agree. I honestly, I went and upgraded for no reason. I
Excellent. Thank you guys so much. Hey, good talk as always, buddy. Y'all have a good one.
Go ahead, Anthony.
No, I'm good, man. It's all good. Like, forgetting about Trent's question, ultimately, once full self-driving becomes, more widely adopted, more people become more comfortable with it. The 13% number that CEO quoted doesn't surprise me. I think those numbers are going to go up exponentially. Um, as that changes, I challenge anybody to go look at videos from people that have driven in Waymo vehicles and that have driven in the Tesla robotaxi and see what to a man they say has been better.
Hey, Anthony, would you agree?
I challenge anybody to go look it up.
Anthony, would you agree at $99 will go down as more people buy into that? Would you agree it will have some?
My $99 could go to zero if I paid the $8,000 right now. I don't have to pay for the subscription, but Robert, at the time, like when I got my car, they literally had not dropped version 13 yet. They dropped it towards the latter part of the month. And there's a lot of people. The majority of Teslas on the road don't even necessarily have hardware for it. I don't know that for a fact. Somebody could call me on it, but it's like so hardware as it relates to hardware 4. You need hardware 4 if you're going to have full self-driving version 13. You need that. And next year Tesla's supposed to drop hardware 5, which is supposed to be 5 times more powerful than hardware 4.
Okay, is everyone still awake? Just wondering. I don't know if there's any other topics, anything else. Okay,
You said yeah.
we're still speaking, but that's fine. If you want to go ahead, you can go ahead. Yeah, we've been here
That's it. I think we can wrap up.
earlier.
We can wrap up.
Okay.
Can I just announce one thing? What's in the
Sure.
So I just wanted to say that, like, I put in the chat, you guys scroll a little bit up, 2 videos of, like, a startup CEO talking about the future of autonomous driving. Is actually a client I work with. So, you will see that.
And Anthony just said yes. Yeah, 2023. 2023 is what he said. 2023 is the identifying factor for HW4 specific products. So I keep the phone numbers of the mobile drivers when they come, just in case I need to call them to do something on side work.
Patty, I think the majority of cars in 2023 have the hardware 4, but when you said that you have to be called in,
No, so
to
I
get
got
cameras.
called in the camera upgrade, and I do. So I texted him earlier about the camera upgrade. He said it was for the green light for your eyes. That's what it was. It was for my eyes. So with the autonomous driving, there's something that has to be done with the cameras that they have in the cabin of your vehicle. So that camera has to be able to see that my eyes are open while I'm driving. That's it.
Yeah, the interior camera has to be able to track your eyes.
Right.
And make
So
sure
it
that
always was tracking your
focused.
eyes, but there was an upgrade on those cameras. That's why I had to remind it. Because that upgrade included something with the FCC.
Yeah, Patty, like, I'm shocked that that's been your experience, but it's all good. Everybody has different
Most of
perceptions.
my friends
But like,
use it, and most of the girls I know have a freaking. So a lot of girls out here driving.
there's, I don't know, like, if you've ever used the summon feature in your car. That's
Yeah,
an
I've used
amazing.
it before, but I think it's stupid too.
You think summon is stupid?
So I actually got it on my Instagram where I was freaking like summoning the vehicle just so I can show people how it goes. I even have it where my car dances. Because with the Model X, those cars dance. I don't do none of that shit. I've only done it like once or twice. The summon feature is stupid.
I just don't understand why you said the Southern feature stupid, but it's all good.
It's
Everybody's
more time waiting on your car than walking to it.
Right, I can walk to my vehicle.
you're going grocery shopping and you got a ton of shit. You're at Lowe's, Home Depot, you're at Walmart. You got a ton of shit.
Alright, we get it. Some people like it, some people don't. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. Ah, yeah, I remember that song. Anywho.
It's crazy how much the room has grown since we started on this topic. But
Oh my gosh, it's... Oh, can we move on? It's been almost 3 hours. Is that okay?
Let's move on. What you got, sir?
Oh,
What you got?
okay. Alright. How about this Kentucky church shooting? Alright, suspect kills 2 women in the Kentucky church after shooting a state trooper. You ever heard about it? Have you guys seen that in the news yet? 2 women died Sunday at a church in Lexington, Kentucky in a shooting rampage that began when a state trooper was wounded after making a traffic stop. Police said the suspect in both shootings was also killed. So the suspect carjacked a vehicle after a traffic stop near Lexington's airport and fled to Richmond Road Baptist Church, where he opened fire, he killed a 72-year-old woman and a 32-year-old woman. 2 other people were wounded at the church and taken to a local hospital. 1 victim sustained critical injuries, the other is stable. The suspect was shot by police and died at the scene. The suspect was not immediately identified, so yeah, they were able to track this vehicle after the incident with the state trooper, and they tracked him to the church, and they killed him. So not much is known about that yet, because that happened yesterday. There was something else in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, there was a fire. There was a fire out in the Grand Canyon where they regularly had. Yeah, so there was a fire in the only structure on the northern rim of the Grand Canyon. And for those that go to the Grand Canyon, your goal is to go to the most southern portion of the Grand Canyon and watch the sun rise. It's an amazing experience. I suggest so you guys do that. You see the candle birds come out, that valley lights up. It's amazing. It's some life ultimate shit. But yeah, so that's what happened. The only lodge, wooded lodge, and I'm wondering as I listen to the story, why did they protect it? Like, put some kind of burn or fire retardant on the wood. I'm like, how did this happen? But that's what happened. A wooden structure has burned, and it's been there forever. So yeah, I'm familiar with that story. I'm out.
So wait, the wooden structure caught on fire because it wasn't what?
I don't know the cause of the fire, but I just know that was the only structure in there. It's been there forever. I don't know. It's been there for a long time. I believe it was in fact probably a landmark. I think it's the structure like when you first enter into the Grand Canyon. You can see it, but it's heavily wooded. It's a lot of wood. And I was wondering why that wood wasn't treated to prevent such a thing from happening. It just seems like somebody was asleep at the wheel. I heard the director of that structure. He was speaking this morning, so I did hear him comment on it. But nobody could tell us like why it wasn't protected. So yeah.
And there's a couple more details Empress put in the chat. I mean, obviously it's from New York Post, so I think this with a grain of salt. Hey, Lisa. So this is about the gunman who killed some people. Apparently it was a mother and daughter. Beverly Gunn and her daughter, or maybe they weren't the ones who shot. Okay, I'm sorry, those weren't the victims. So these are people that are telling the story. So Beverly Gunn and her daughter, Star Rutherford, were in the basement of the Richmond Road Baptist Church on Sunday late afternoon, preparing lunch for the congregation when the shooter barge and demanding to speak with one of Rutherford's sisters. So apparently one of Rutherford's sisters was the intended target, but she wasn't there. The deranged shooter then told them, well, someone's going to have to die then. A 72-year-old mother of 8 was able to avoid the first shot by ducking out of the way, but was then struck in the chest by the second shot, killing her. He then exited the church and shot and killed Rutherford's other sister. So yeah, it was a mother and daughter who passed away. Christina Combs, 34, outside. Then shot Gunn's husband and longtime pastor of Richmond Road Baptist Church. He critically injured them. Then the officers responded and they get into the shootout. They end up killing this man. Oof. So apparently it was some drama with that guy. Very sad. And I also have something I put in the chat about the Boys and Girls Club. Apparently there's funds that are being frozen by the Trump administration, and so that might affect thousands of families. And if you've ever gone to the Boys and Girls Club camp or their after-school program, it's 1.4 million children and teenagers who have been attending their after-school and summer programming. So apparently they might not have the funding to continue.
It's a great way to get more crime, to get more people in prison. Let's put the teenagers out on the street.
So I'm sorry, Sin, what was the reason for looking to not fund Boys and Girls Club? What was it?
Let's see. I don't know if there's a reason here, but it says after driving to take her son.
It's the history of the 20th century, and we are talking about the Second World War. The dimension of misknowledge in Iran about this war is horrific. It's really horrific.
Information inoculation theory proposes that weak arguments actually strengthen opposing viewpoints. And so, to me, I would think if you want to convince someone of something that's important to you, telling them conspiracy stories would be probably the worst way to do it, because you're just going to cause them to look at you as not a credible source of information. And then when you have something that's, maybe valid, they're saying, maybe they're not listening anymore. And so if there was a way to get that point across, maybe there would be a way to facilitate some more kind of deeper.
So the beginning of Clubhouse 2020, the Farsi space was incredible because it was during COVID and all these experts on history and archaeology were on Clubhouse, and they would give rooms about the ancient Persian history or archaeological finds, the history of the Medes and Elamites and people like that. So it was amazing. But once COVID kind of disappeared and everybody went back to work, the only people who remained in Clubhouse were these crazies. And so crazies who don't go to work. Right? If they went to work, they wouldn't be on Clubhouse. So that's really what we get a lot of.
Hey, real quick, I'd like to give a shout out
Good morning, Mo.
to the audience. Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to an audience member, our
Yeah.
poop emoji Anon.
Oh yeah, welcome, poopy.
And then also, I'd like to give a shout out to Love Crypto for trying to engage us into some kind of scheme.
Yeah, thank you for that because unfortunately Love Crypto just made my block list. Thanks.
You're welcome.
I love it that they come here, they put the message, and then they leave. It's like, well, why don't we talk about this, right? Come up and talk about your scheme.
I'd really like to know.
Excuse me. Are you talking about this earphone guy who was there?
No, the crypto guy who says, "Give me $300."
That other
tomorrow you
earphone
have
guy.
5,000.
Just for your info, that other earphone guy is the one that usually comes to the rooms of Ben and us together and mobs me then around the Iranian rooms as an American spy. This guy, this guy, Irfan Bob, whatever he was, he's blocked by Ben and banned by him from the room. And he went there and told to the Iranian people, Piruzans told the Zionists to remove me from their secret room. I mean, really, like, you know what kind of it is for Iranian, so being called as a spy for Israel. Now they are arresting a lot of Jewish and Baha'i people, Afghan people of minority, and now be like a Gestapo and middling around other rooms and shout it out like this. Sturmabteilung, SA.
This is why the Anon thing. I kind of wrote a comment to Clubhouse, but I guess they don't read those comments. That by having that, in Iranian rooms, people have spent a lot of time figuring out who are the government agents and who are not, to identify problematic people and spies, etc. By putting this Anon thing, they have basically eradicated all of that work. So now Anon people can just come into rooms, like government agents and spies can come into rooms as Anon,
Danny,
and nobody knows who they are, and you can't kick them out. That's horrible.
That's normal. If there is no somebody who's watching you, this is the exception. Nowadays in Iranian Clubhouse, all these they have left Clubhouse, and not much people has left. All those who have left now. They are earning a little bit, maybe in business or something else, but actually the intelligentsia has left already.
Where did they go? I mean, and so when you say the intelligentsia is left,
they're preparing themselves, maybe on the more private level to be in contact with a more private level and preparing themselves for leaving the country. We are a country which its sky is occupied. We are not the superior on our airspace. Imagine you're living in America and Russia have your airspace. What do you feel? This is not a country anymore. You are kind of not in the rule of your own. So, I mean, a lot of people, I'm trying my best to get my rest of the family out of the country, to be honest with you. We forgot about the money we have there. We forgot about our houses there.
Let me respond to Jules really quick. In that the Iranian clubhouse, the Farsi-speaking clubhouse, and the English-speaking clubhouse are completely different. So during the past protests, Clubhouse was used to organize a lot of these protests. A lot more Iranian opposition groups are in Clubhouse, and so the space here turns into is a highly political space against the regime. And so, yes, the agents of the regime are in Clubhouse to see who inside of Iran is saying what. And multiple people have been arrested in Iran because of the comments that they made on Clubhouse. So this presence of government agents in Clubhouse for the Farsi-speaking community is indeed a huge issue.
She was probably talking about the.
Yeah. In the U.S., that's not an issue unless Trump succeeds.
Not yet. Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
Well, good morning, Chinga. Good morning, Alfonso. And I think I'm seeing double right now with you, Chinga, Amerindigenous. Are they both your accounts? And do you use one to record and pipe us out to your pod?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Good morning, Alfonso. Anyone else? We're just having a chat.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. James. Good to be here.
I had a little read of an article that I had readied up over the weekend, but I've just decided that Mondays it seems like there's enough inertia from people coming in and having had a whole weekend of not talking since Thursday that seems like today is a great day for just kind of open. I think that just became an official new decree just now. So anyway, yeah, what's up? Anything happen over the weekend for anyone? Anything on your mind? We've got 34 minutes left. A lot of interesting stuff going on in my little universe of news, but meaning not my personal news, about nothing new to report there, but in terms of just little news articles I picked up. But I'd much rather just do open dialogue if any of you have anything, just kind of burn up.
I have something. I don't know if anybody knows about the airline industry, but I read an article a couple of weeks ago that said the sort of ethos and culture of pilots and flight attendants is palpable in terms of service and in terms of safety. And I can't remember which airline, but like sometimes the pilot and co-pilot will fight, and then the flights don't go so well, or they don't show up on time. And another airline, everybody's like real friendly and a family, and everything goes well. I usually fly Delta, and I'm satisfied with Delta. But this last week, I flew to Oklahoma on United and almost died twice. So the wind shear in Denver was really, really terrible. Nobody could land. They wanted us to stay in the air for 30 minutes. The pilot said, we don't have enough fuel to do that. So he's kind of land us in Nebraska. We couldn't make it, so we had to land in Wyoming, which the wind was still high in Wyoming, and it was very rough and rocky, and we hit the ground hard, and then we had to get on buses and go to Denver that way. But that didn't seem to fix anything, because then on the way back from Oklahoma, had similar problems, and they kept delaying our flight from like 7 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon, and everybody who was on the flight with me was like, I'm never going to fly United again. United does this all the time. So there's two questions. One is like when the flights don't go well, is that the crew's fault? And then on the other side, do the airports give preferential landing and takeoff to certain airlines and not others because we couldn't get off the ground?
First of all, glad to hear you're alive. And second of all, I just want to ask you, have you seen HBO, the show Rehearsal Season 2? If you have not, I highly recommend you watch it because it's a very interesting, intelligent, and humorous take on this really horrendous topic. It's you can kind of call it investigative journalism meets real life comedy meets I don't know what. It's but basically they do this whole expose on the relationship between the pilot and the co-pilot and how co-pilots do not feel safe, and to basically tell the pilot when they're doing something wrong, because the pilot can ban them for life if they don't follow orders, and because the pilot and co-pilot are basically just meeting for the first time as they're getting on the plane, so they don't really have too much rapport built up between them. And very, very interesting take on just, you know, the impact of shitty communication between the pilot and co-pilot in the airline industry.
I'll just speak. My husband flies for American, and I've never heard of him ever having issues like that with.
Is he the pilot or the co-pilot?
Well, I guess you would say because, you know, you have the captain and the first officer.
That's what I meant,
and,
captain.
Okay, so
Yep.
He's been a captain before, but then he moved up into international. So right now he's one of the first officers. There's 4 of them on the international planes. He has never complained about that. He usually gets along really well with the other pilots.
So the subordinates are obedient.
Yeah, I mean everybody pretty much gets along. It's sometimes usually he has some tiffs with the flight attendants because, you know, they'll be like, you know, oh, you can't do this or that, and like you know, just little drama things. But for the most part, they don't have issues with that. So that's just to speak on that part. As far as like, well, yeah, I know you said some other things, Chinga. I'm not sure what I can speak to.
So let me just do the obligatory good mornings here. Wow, we've got Cora. Welcome, Cora. Hero, Marshall. We're just having kind of an open dialogue. So, you know, clearly you could talk about anything you want at this point. It happens to be that I was commiserating with Chinga on nearly dying on a United Airlines flight, and then I shared about this docu-comedy I saw on HBO called Rehearsal, which is it's season 2. They kind of get into this topic, and they highlight this communication issues between the first officer and the captain on these commercial airline flights, where the co-pilot, the first officers, just don't feel safe to essentially tell the pilot, hey, we're about to crash, and where they're supposed to feel comfortable to take over the plane if need be. And they show all these examples of where this has happened through reenactment, and it's pretty scary. I mean, it's an interesting thing that they, you know, potentially.
You're the 4th person to mention Rehearsal in like the last 3 days to me, so it is definitely on my list to watch soon.
Season 2 in particular related to this topic, yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen it, so when I will definitely report back. The pilot co-pilot relationship is pretty well spelled out by standard operating procedure and stuff. From my perspective, I think this does change between companies, but so I have a good friend who flies for Delta, and he talks pretty glowingly about it. I'm sure they're not all the same.
Is he a first officer or a captain?
He's the captain. Like, I think, was it Mo who talked about it?
You can imagine the captains might have a blind spot, right? Think about it.
Well, but he's so what happens is, like, nobody becomes a captain without having been first officer, and they change around quite a bit. So, like right now, for example, my friend is getting type certified in, I think, Airbus 350s, and which is large wide body twin engine, and he will become a first officer again before he's a captain of that plane. So they do that a lot through their career. You're first officer, you become captain, you move to a bigger plane, you're first officer again, now you're a captain. And he also did the international stuff where you're like a relief captain. So he got to be captain kind of earlier, but didn't get to take off and land the plane. So it's like a mini captain. Anyway, so they do this a lot. But I know that the way that they each have roles to play, and the co-pilot is not like completely submissive. It's not like the captain comes in and is like, oh, I'm the captain, you can't tell me what to do. I just don't think that really happens. I mean, I'm really curious about watching the show. I do fear, like most TV shows, that it's kind of going to get it wrong for the sake of the show, but we'll see. It's also like a comedy, right? So it's like
it's kind of weird because it's like a person who owns right out the gate. He says, I'm a comedian. You know, basically, I make my money off of making people laugh. And there's a serious topic that has, you know, come to my attention. How do we broach this and have it be both?
Yeah,
how do we do this?
I'm very curious. I know that he can speak to truth and power in powerful ways. So I don't dismiss it out of the gate. I'm very curious.
Well, here's the thing that I thought was interesting. It's more about the nuance of the dynamics of communication between uneven structures of power in a professional context when you've got, you know, 300 people's lives in your hands, and how that plays out. And you would not expect it to play out the way they're proposing, which is that there have been many deaths that occurred when you look at the flight logs. That essentially what happened was there was some point where the co-pilot became aware that there was a problem, but the co-pilot didn't speak up.
Yeah, and I think Hero's missing because he came in late. There was an article last week that came out and talked about the ethos of different airlines and how some work better because they have a very good relationship and familial-like atmosphere, while other ones are very competitive and they don't get any incentive for cooperating, and so it affects the service.
It's kind of like if you have all downside for speaking up in a differential of power as someone who's a subordinate. How often do you?
Well, I do know that the aviation culture has taken on this. And, you know, first of all, the fact that it varies for company and perhaps even by country and culture, that doesn't surprise me at all. I'm sure there's good examples and bad examples. But I do know that aviation in general takes these kinds of things pretty seriously and are pretty sophisticated about it. So they talk a lot about cockpit resource management and there's like protocols you go through when you decide to do something. It's like, you know, I'm flipping a switch. Okay, you flip the switch. Okay, flipping the switch. Like there's these like little like these, and it's drilled into the pilots how they talk about things, and kind of get consensus between them. Not to say mistakes don't happen, but they at least try. They take it pretty seriously. And my friend is what do they call them? He's a line check airman. Like he's one of the guys who actually, like, when he gets in the cockpit, like can basically disqualify somebody. He's kind of an instructor, but like an examiner sort of thing. And so he's pretty senior. And he will talk about certain people that he always comes to, you know, a lot of times they're ex-military, or they're just like, oh, I used to fly F-18s, or, you know, they're kind of a little too big for their role. And he, you know, there's a macho culture in some ways, and all the more reason to have a lot of people thinking about this. And if you were taking like an FAA exam, which I have because I'm a private pilot, so I just find little things. I can't really speak to this firsthand, but just because, you know, I know people. There are lots of questions about like psychology. Like they identify these different personality types. There's people who are authoritarian. There's people who are not evasive. What's the word? There's like these. You study and learn about the types of dangerous personality, not personalities, more like dangerous mentalities, like avoid.
Are you talking about like an avoidant PD? Are you talking about personality disorders? Or are you just talking about more dynamics within?
Yeah, dynamics within communication, but I don't think personality disorders, but certain mentality. I'll look it up. There's the FAA has these like identified risky kind of behaviors or mentalities, like somebody who likes to flaunt the rules, or somebody who wants to ignore problems, you know, like, yeah, we're getting low on fuel, but
hero. So really quick, this is kind of what this seed in the show kind of highlights a bit, are the different dynamics that play out. So I almost feel like those examples seem like they've come from actual incidents that ended in fatality.
Totally. Everything that seems weird in life is there because it actually happened. Right? Like I'm sure Sam can speak on this, like in contracts and lawyers speak and stuff. And every time you see something like, what, that seems dumb, it's like, no, that's happened enough that now there's like a thing on it in the contract. And every procedure in an airplane is because these things have gone wrong. Right? Like there's definitely going to be a new thing about how you touch the fuel switch now, right? Because of the thing in India. And maybe it's going to change, you know, maybe that fuel switch is going to change. just on how physically or logically how it works. But every time something goes wrong, people circle the wagons and figure out what's going on, and there's really this culture of not trying. Okay, it used to be like, pilot error, and that every time something went wrong, if you could blame it on pilot error, there was this idea of like, oh well, that was that guy's fault. I wouldn't do that. But that really changed to be like, no, pilot error. The pilot did that for a reason. Either they were confused, and if they were confused in a way, then we could be confused in that same way. And if the switch was in a bad place, or it looked too much like another switch, or there's a procedure, like people really they change the way words are used, because like this word sounds too much like that word in the heat of battle, so to speak. Can be confused. So they're always reviewing these things, and of course things can be wrong and things that need to be improved. But there's a lot of effort into doing this, I guess, is my point. More than almost like any other area of my life. I see aviation folks just really like really thinking seriously about how things should be better and how things should be.
That is good to hear, by the way. That is encouraging. Anyway, does anyone else have any comments? I would say, Shingo, you're on mic.
I was going to add another wrinkle. So I appreciate the flight attendant and the pilot's honesty, but they said the plane, so I do short hops to unpopular cities, right? And Delta never had a problem, but United, they use these older, poorly designed planes, and that's what the flight attendant said. This plane design isn't that great. It's really front heavy, so we want everybody to sit in the back. And then we had some extra seats, and she goes, especially the heavier people, we need to balance. We need to balance the plane so that we don't come down too hard. And they said this in both directions, going to Oklahoma and coming back to Oklahoma. They said this plane sucks, and we need all the fat people in the back.
Do you remember what kind of plane it was?
No, I don't remember, but I was just like, I understand the planes are expensive and you probably can't get rid of them, but you should have bought a better plane.
I've been on flights where the pilot came out and
heavy
said,
people.
Yeah, I've been on flights that pilot comes out and says, you move over there, and just moves people around to balance the weight. I think they can tell by the pressure on the landing gear if the plane is not weighted.
That's really interesting.
Especially those small planes. They do that. They've done that actually I remember that even in the early 70s, that they would move people around in really small regional planes to rebalance things. And luggage too. When they're loading the luggage, they're very careful about how they balance the luggage in there.
Oh, I guess
even though it just looks like they're just throwing it, there is a system.
So guess what they did? So they admitted that we don't have enough fuel to go from Bismarck to Denver, right? So we had to land in Scottsbluff. They're like, oh, can't make it there. Got to emergency land in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So we get there, and they said, we're going to get more fuel, and then we're going to try again for Denver. They overfueled the plane, and they said, we can't get people back on the plane because the plane's too heavy now. Like, just so many comedy of errors. It was just terrible.
I found maybe it's just that because of the internet, we hear about it a lot more often. But the turbulence, you hear about it a lot lately. And I'm wondering, is this something that climate change is affecting a lot? And I haven't really heard much about that aspect of it. Is climate change affecting, especially the upper atmosphere, the 30,000 feet stuff where these planes are dropping 10,000 feet.
Yeah, I've heard that, Rick. I've heard that it's from climate change, but I can't contribute any more than that because it's just that I've heard.
I would tend to think it's more due to the fact that there's just more flights into a lot more area. Like the model has become much less like the spoke model, where you have major hubs and you have bigger. For a while, it was like bigger planes into small hubs, and the industry changed to to smaller planes into many hubs, so it's way more distributed, and that's why you're seeing flights into smaller and smaller airports as populations, kind of grow up around those airports. But yeah, so there's a ton more flights than there used to be. That's got it. So that's why like planes like the A380 kind of died pretty quickly. Like the 747 went away or is almost gone, and those biggest planes are less economically viable for the airlines because they'd rather fly 3 planes from say the 3 different airports in the New York region to 3 different airports in the UK rather than one big flight from JFK to Heathrow. It just makes more sense. It gives different more options, more times, slightly different locations. And
interesting spin, really quick. Nathan Fielder, the guy who does that show, Rehearsal, and the season 2 pilot episode, there's this interview I pinned to the top where one of the pilots that's interviewed basically said, I just discovered that Nathan Fielder had gotten his commercial license and was 737 rated. So that's actually kind of an interesting twist to the guy that's hosting the show, and some knowledge he would have as an insider, and if there's any exams that have to be taken, I know how thorough those.
He's a comedian pilot. That's
interesting.
Or a pilot comedian.
No, please go ahead. Sorry,
As far as the question about whether like traffic control gives preference to certain airlines or something, I don't think that's a thing. I think they get their flight plans. They're scheduled. There is a timing thing sometimes. So if you have a bunch of planes stacked up, which you don't get that very often anymore. Like it used to be a thing where you'd be like, we're in a holding pattern, and now with GPS and stuff, it's what you navigate direct to all the time. You don't have to go to this place, to this nav aid, to that nav aid, to that. It used to be kind of like connect the dots, and now it's like you take off and boom, go straight towards something, unless you have to avoid weather or terrain or restricted areas or whatever. So there are a lot more direct flights, and it's true. And now it's like if you're going to have to divert to a different airport, usually they do it earlier. You don't fly to that airport, do traffic patterns for an hour, and then divert. Usually it's like, well, I mean, it does happen because of weather, like we're talking about like crazy turbulence, crazy stuff. But that, to me, that's just like, that's nature getting in the way of us having a good time. Like we have high winds, it's actually hard to land planes in high winds, it turns out. I love that that's still true.
One thing that we don't have holding patterns anymore like we did before is not because we're using GPS, it's because airlines have figured out that wastes a lot of fuel. So if you don't have a landing spot in the queue at the destination airport, you don't take off. So you basically take off when you're assured of a spot in the queue.
It's true, especially for shorter range flights. It's called flow control. So they will delay your takeoff until you fit into the traffic. They have it a lot of like more regional airports. Like I don't think you're flying across the country, that'll affect you because you still have a lot of like time to correct for when you arrive. But if it's so short that if your flight is so short that you're going to take off, go there, and land, like your landing time is pretty predictable at that point, and they will alter your takeoff for that. It's pretty logistically dialed in these days. But it's so dialed in that when things go wrong, the wrongness gets cascaded through the system because the time slots are way tighter than they used to be. That any like mess up of that like fucks everything up, and that's why you hear about these like the entire Northeast, or sometimes you're waiting for a flight. It's like why is it delayed? Oh, there was this mess up back in Atlanta. We're across the country from Atlanta. Well, yeah, but that delayed this flight, which delays that flight, and all of a sudden everything's messed up. But partly that's because things are so freaking dialed in on a good day. Yeah.
Well, let's walk together. 12 minutes left here. Anyone else have any comments? Maybe someone who hasn't spoken? We could do like a 10-second silent countdown and then dogpile anyone else who has something they want to say that's already spoken. It's just one good. folks maybe who don't like chatting. Well, we've offered the plate. We put out the delicious dessert. You can take it.
I'll just say it's interesting because this whole, airline stuff just really was popping in the chat. There's so much everyone can say about flights and everything.
Yeah, please do. You've got 11 minutes left to get it.
How about that airline food?
British Airways actually has decent food on their flights.
Well, I have to say, Osiris, the Scottish Terrier, Lord of the Underworld, buddy of mine, right at my ankle right now on a walk in Berkeley Hills. She hates flying, but she always finds a way to sneak on the plane with me, and I'm that guy. Some of you may love me, some of you may hate me, but he is on my lap as often as possible, and then I have to keep putting him into his little thing under the seat, which, let's be real, he can fit into. And so I have all sorts of little techniques I use to hide him. I make Drake tents over my head, and we hang out in the tent. We do all sorts of things, but we've gone to Mexico so many times. He's been on so many great vacations over the years before the pandemic. Things have been a little bit thin since the pandemic, but I don't know. I'm very thankful for air travel that doesn't kill me. Let me just throw it out there. So, thank you for your service, pilots, co-pilots, captains, first mates, and
I also travel with my dog everywhere, but she's a service dog, and so nobody hassles us at all. She usually sits on the floor, but she'll come up in my lap if I'm getting anxious or something and do pressure therapy on my chest. And the flight attendants and everybody seems to love her so far. So she's a very good dog.
What kind of dog do you have, Cora?
She's half Boston Terrier, half French Bulldog. She weighs about 24 pounds, and her name's Birdie.
Well, I probably would love that dog too because I love all animals.
How do you get them through the security?
She actually, you have to, when you're going through, you have to let the dog go before you on the leash. And generally what happens is the TSA agent on the other side will take the leash once she gets through, and then you have to go through right after. So it's one at a time. Yeah.
Is it true that Italy is more dog friendly? Because if that is the case, then I feel like I want to bring Osiris to meet my ancestors, or at least half my genes ancestors, and I think he would have a great time.
Yeah, I've never taken Birdie overseas. I do want to take her to Mexico because I know Mexico will let you in without a hassle with the dog. So
their whole disposition. When I was so I'm Gen X, right? So when I grew up going down to Tijuana and Ensenada and all these places as a kid, so I can drink, before I was 21 and do stupid things, and so I lived in SoCal, so that was an easy thing to do. And back then, it seemed like dogs were not that revered. And then, fast forward to the last 10 years, trips to go to Mexico, and it's man, royal treatment for Osiris. I mean, he comes home with all kinds of personalized, embroidered different things, his new dog bowl, his new Osiris handkerchief, the whole shebang. It's great. They even have little doggy beds in the places we stay that look just like the adult beds. It's.
Well, part of it, I think, is I don't remember what year it was, but the UN had this whole thing about countries that eat dogs. Korea, Mexico, other places, and in Mexico, people ate dogs. Chihuahuas were bred to be the chickens of the Aztecs, right? And so it got really pejoratized and culturally not cool. So then all of us, and Mexico actually made a law, I think it was in 21, that says there's no legal way you can eat a dog anymore. I think that's the whole cultural attitude, is trying to satisfy the British old lady who loves her dog so much that she'd
clone it in Switzerland.
Probably also the travel industry too, right? Because there's a bunch of nitwits like me that love to go everywhere with their dogs, and that's not going to change. So I could imagine losing a huge swath of your potential clientele because they're a bunch, whatever you would call someone like me who's just never leaves his dog with anyone.
I promise not to eat your dog.
Files.
Yeah. Oh, good morning, Dr. Francine. Haven't heard from you.
Good morning. I'm not good at contributing on airline pilots, but on dogs, I'm number one. I've actually flown in the cabin with a golden retriever.
So, Dr. Francine, hard-hitting question. Are you pro or con consumption of dogs?
Oh my God. I have dogs that sleep on my bed with me. I'm totally con. I don't eat any meat.
They taste like a combination of pork and chicken. It's really greasy.
Ew.
Nothing.
There was this place, and
Nothing with a face.
there's this place in our town that had a pet store, and right next door was a Chinese restaurant of the same name. That's disgusting. I can only imagine.
The people who weren't adopted got eaten.
Well, you don't know what happened, but it's kind of odd that they owned both a pet store and a restaurant.
I think you're connecting dots that aren't explicitly there, Mo. I mean, can we just be...
Yeah, maybe.
I'd like to take this opportunity and give a public service announcement on behalf of the Baja California Tourism Bureau and say for those of you who have access to it but haven't done so, Valle de Guadalupe Valley, it's about half hour east of Ensenada. It's in the mountains. It's the Mexican wine region. And I've been there 4 or 5 times post-COVID. They have a lot of really nice resort-type places for you to stay at, and the wineries are really good. They're beginning to be competitive with California wines, and the food is out of this world. Most of the famous Mexican chefs have opened up restaurants either in the resorts and the wineries or standing alone.
What
So
did you call it?
For Guadalupe Valley, Valle de Guadalupe.
Any chance there's a lake up there called Lake Hansen, Laguna Hansen?
I don't know.
Well, I've traveled in that area before. I grew up in San Diego, and I late 80s, early 90s, my brother and I took a little road trip, and we went down to Ensenada, and we went east into the hills, and it is gorgeous up there.
Oh my God!
It's like
it's phenomenal.
And it's like, well, for me at the time, it was like, oh, I didn't realize anything. It looked,
yeah,
this is stupid. It looked like areas of Southern California up in the hills with pine trees, and of course, it's less than 100 miles south of the border. Why would it be that different once you get up in the hills? But it was green, and I think spring. Just so
it's
it was a grassy
greener
green.
than San Diego.
Yeah,
side.
It was really pretty. There were horses running around that looked like they were actually happy, and there were frogs everywhere for some reason. I don't know, like
so.
millions of
In
frogs.
the past
But,
in the past 20 years, it's been kind of built up quite a bit around the wine industry, and so I think if you're there now, you probably wouldn't recognize it. But the amazing thing is there are these restaurants that like the chef gets up in the morning and just goes into the hills and sees what kind of edible greeneries they can find, and then goes to the market and sees what animal they slaughtered that day, and so then makes the menu based on that. And the food is just I can't say no.
What wine pairs well with dog, horse, or guinea pig?
I think Zinfandel would go well with greasy foods.
Only here have anyone ever had this conversation on Clubhouse.
That's the other thing, like the whole anti-South American thing is because a lot of the people, because after NAFTA and CAFTA are indigenous, they don't speak Spanish, they don't speak English, but they bring their traditions with them, and one of them from South America is eating guinea pig, and so people would go into the pet stores, buy guinea pigs, and then go to the park, a public park, and cook guinea pigs. In some cities are like, you can't do that.
I would serve it with a Sangiovese.
This whole I don't eat this, I don't eat that is a very first world issue. It's like the rest of the world, you eat whatever doesn't eat you first.
The local festival
if you
anymore.
can find it.
We're not talking to our neighbors, and I'll tell you this one story and I'll leave. Where I live, there's one road in and out. Because it was at my city council meeting. If we lose that road,
but guinea pigs have been eaten in the Andes forever, and now it's one of the staple and survival food crops for Africa to prevent people from starving, because they don't take a lot of space. You can have them in your house with you to protect them from thievery, and they grow very fast, and it's a good source of protein. So they've exported the tradition of eating guinea pigs from the Andes to Africa, and it saved a bunch of lives.
Yeah, that the Last Supper. Where is it? Is it in
people in
Lima,
places
Peru, or
under
that
pretense that it has to do with
is eating
ICE
a guinea
and
pig?
sovereign states or sovereign cities not
Is that a
handing
painting
over,
that is
illegal
illegally?
Yeah, it's a
and what
mural.
this is really going to be
Last Supper. They're
setting up
all
for a martial law
Jesus
lockdown,
and the
where I
12
think,
apostles.
honestly,
They all have indigenous features, and in front of Jesus on a plate is a cooked guinea pig.
Oh my gosh, this morning, I'm sorry, I'm going to change the subject slightly, but I have in the same realm, I saw this, this just really hilarious but kind of stupid video my partner showed me on Instagram of this guy playing Moses, but Moses is like one of these vlogger newscasters doing kind of all the cliche, cheesy social media things.
Were able with Marco Rubio and with Steve Witkoff to get these talks going in Istanbul. I remember I was myself in Turkey for NATO business in May, and we really put pressure on the Ukrainians.
Are y'all hearing how he's kissing the fucking ring? This shit is ridiculous. He is kissing his ass.
Part of that's actually
To Istanbul and did it.